Welcome back. We'll continue our discussion shortly with our three panelists. But first, let me welcome Mr. Najib al-Naimi, a member of Saddam's defense team. Mr. Naimi, did you have access to your client? Did you have a proper client-attorney relationship?
No, we did not. In fact, as I said, many times that on the beginning of our meeting, the first day we're meeting, we had some kind of a police Iraqi from the army, Iraqi, and some I think Americans. They came and sat just beside us and looking at us. And I told them, excuse me, this is not a proper way. You have to leave. This is my client, and you have to leave the room and let us, have a discussion. So they refused, and then their commander interfered, and we had a big row. It ended that they had to leave the room, and I told them, you are watching us. There's a camera on the top of on the same room, so we shouldn't be worried about anything.
This was not one of the problems, the only problems you had. Many of your colleagues, as a matter of fact, three of them, they were killed. To what extent security hampered your work?
Well, we were actually, when we go to the trial, we feel that we might be killed at any time. I mean, we've been receiving a threat. Even when we get to the airport, you get some eyes, people looking at you like you have done something wrong. And we could be, we were at risk once. We were in the elevator, and the elevator was stuck in the airport, and everybody looked to each other. We thought, that's it, this is the time we will be killed. We were, salvaged and taken out of the elevator later on. So we were actually in fear. The problem with the fear that when you are actually a lawyer, you cannot have an access actually to the witnesses. We've been, very much been almost abused in a way in the court and in our camp where we stayed.
Mr. Najib al-Naimi, one of Saddam's defense lawyers, thank you very much. Let me go back to Bassam al-Husseini. Bassam, Sabah al-Mukhtar mentioned the indictment sheet. That is to say, Saddam, up to the moment when he went to trial, he did not know exactly what were charges against him.
Oh, that's a false accusation. All the documentation being submitted to the defense team prior to October 19, the first day of the trial. However, if they did not choose to read it or go through it, that's their problem. This was an Iraqi tribunal. It was run by Iraqi judges. Was not an intervention by the American or the Iraqi government for that matter, and everything took its own course. It was a very lengthy process. I gotta mention some of the fact that we see a lot of the Iraqi people are very happy to see the indictment of Saddam. I mean, we're not surprised. I just don't want to see the 99.99% are with the verdict and they support this tribunal. Unless the other minority of the people who support Saddam remnants still out there against this verdict. So I want to see where the Iraq is going. I highly suggest that Mr. Mukhtar be with the majority of the Iraqi people.
Let me put that to Sabah. Sabah, are you swimming against the current? The entire Iraqi population, it seems they are happy with the decision.
Well, if the Iraqis are looking for vengeance, or some of the Iraqis are looking for vengeance, which I understand, and there are some people who actually want vengeance from Saddam Hussein, that's fine. But let's not claim that we are going through a legal process. Iraqis have done this before in 1958 when the monarchy men were dragged in the streets. That was the raw justice, which is not different from the lynching exercise in the Wild West they do in America at the time. On the other hand, when they had the 1958 court, which was called the People's Court, which did not give the men of the monarchy a fair trial, they all became martyrs. We don't want Saddam to become the martyr of Iraq. Iraq deserves better martyrs. The Americans have now, and I disagree totally with Mr. Husseini saying that it was an Iraqi one. He knows absolutely well that it was totally and absolutely run by the Americans, both those people who were in court, outside court, with the exception of the two faces we see on the screen. He knows exactly that the whole exercise from A to Z was an American one, and it was controlled by the Americans. And even today, Saddam is in the hands of the Americans because they do not trust the system in Iraq.
Sabah, let me stop you for just a second. Bassam, he wants to say something. Go ahead, Bassam.
Well, I think this was an Iraqi tribunal, you know it. The Americans are really being supported. They support the lawyers of Saddam Hussein. They are the one who bring him back from the airport to the green zone to go through the trial, they count on the American. I'm really surprised on your what you're saying, because now the whole defense team are counting with the American to keep Saddam with the Americans. Saddam Hussein legally with the Iraqi authority for the executive branch of the government, and they will deliver execution. Hopefully we'll eyewitness this, and Saddam, this dynasty is over. Enough of genocide. We need to go forward with the process. Saddam is long gone. Do not think about him as a leader.
Well, they were trained by the Americans. All the judges were trained. The Americans are taking the credit for training the judges as if Iraq had no people who can judge. Iraq is a country which had judges that
by international communities, not by Americans.
Business.
Well, the training they took in London was not by the American, was by international and supervised by the United Nations.
Bassam, let me engage one of those Americans. Richard, to what extent this was there was an American input? To what extent this was a small achievement for President Bush to see Saddam finally off life?
I think obviously the American government played a huge role in assisting the establishment of the Iraqi High Tribunal through funds, through the provision of experts from the U.S. Department of Justice, through all kinds of forensic expertise, etc. In my mind, there's no question as to the essential American role in establishing the Iraqi High Tribunal. I don't think that's as problematic as the fact that
Richard,
the Americans made a wrong decision. I think what should have been created was a court that contained Iraqi lawyers and judges and international lawyers and judges working together in a partnership. I think that would have created the possibility of a much more legitimate process. I do disagree with the comment that Bassam made. I think the Iraqi cabinet interfered through the criticisms made publicly of the first presiding judge and his handling of the proceedings. That led him to resign in protest in January of 2006.
Let me bring up this subject, Richard. Let me go to Bassam. How do you explain what the first judge, Rizgar Amin, said, that this is really politically motivated and the law does not carry the day, and he resigned?
Well, let me go back to this. Now, keep in mind, you can't. There's no difference between Iraqi people and Iraqi government. Iraqi people were very upset with the process of this tribunal because they thought the Iraqi people were actually uprising, demonstration all over Iraq. They thought Judge Rizgar, with all my respect to him, he was given Saddam Hussein to deliver political speeches. He was given enough time during the cross-examination. When that took place, he was under a lot of pressure and criticism from the Iraqi people throughout different TV stations. He took his own decision. As a matter of fact, we as a team, we went to Kurdistan trying to talk him out of it to come back. And he would not do that. It was his own call, his own decision, was not interfered by the Iraqi government. During my previous boss, Dr. Ibrahim Jafari, we talked him into it. We tried. We sent 11 members trying to bring him back from the government, said, please, this is not good for the trial, come back. That was his own call. Therefore, the Iraqi tribunal, the IHT, Iraqi High Tribunal, decided to replace him with another judge, with Judge Raouf. That's exactly what happened.
Rather than go into a lot of details, Bassam, let me go to Sabah. Sabah, Richard, Richard alluded to many pronouncements by the Iraqi government, including al-Maliki, that he wants Saddam to be dead before the year is out. I mean, that's just a political, perhaps for political consumption.
Look, justice, there is something, you have to do justice and you have to make it to be seen to be done. And that is what this government has failed to do at all. They have not done justice, and they have not, if they think they have done justice, then the people have not seen it. And the test is in the eating. Everybody, not anybody, has supported this with the exception of those who were running the show. And that is the Maliki and the people who defend this exercise.
Please do not ignore the majority of the Iraqi
disagree,
people.
wouldn't you? I mean,
the Iraqi people. I'm speaking on behalf of the Iraqi people.
If you are, nobody is talking, you're talking on behalf of the Iraqi people. I'm talking about the court. The court is nothing to do with the Iraqi people. The court is a court of law. You have changed it into a political exercise, even though it was to start with a political court which was set up by the occupiers and the Americans who are going to give the Middle East
and go to
an
Richard.
example.
Richard, Saddam, by all standard, perhaps by your standard or your Western European standard, did not get fair trial, but by Iraqi standard, he got something very good. What about the rest of the country? Many Iraqis are being killed and executed without trial.
Well, I think those acts, regardless of who commits them, very well could amount to war crimes or crimes against humanity. Whether those acts are carried out by U.S. forces, other multinational forces, or Iraqi forces on the one side, or if indeed they're carried out by insurgents who are conducting indefensible attacks on innocent civilians through car bombings and other assaults. I think what we agree on here is that Saddam Hussein and the other leaders of the Ba'ath Party needed to be brought to justice. Horrific, unspeakable crimes had been committed under the Ba'ath Party government that both of the other panelists know far better than I. There needed to be a trial. These individuals had to be held to account for the crimes that occurred.
Richard Dicker of the Human Rights Watch, thank you very much. Sabah Al-Mukhtar, President of the Arab Lawyers Association in London, and Bassam Al-Husseini, advisor to Al-Maliki. Thank you, gentlemen. To find more information about the program and to send us your comments, please go to www.aljazeera.net/English. And if you like to share your views on the execution of Saddam Hussein, just follow the links to your views on the website. That's all the time we have this week. Join me next week when we have another look inside Iraq. Goodbye.